Hi, I'm Cathy,
I'm Kevin.
and this is Over Explained.
Hmm.
This is the however often we end up doing it, hopefully every other week, podcast slash video thing. Anyway, um, where we, surprise, surprise, over explain things.
Hmm.
Kevin, do you have anything interesting, any new game related news to share before we start?
Not particularly. No. Just um, not really.
Okay.
Not particularly.
I don't have anything too much in the true crime realm that is new. However, there are a few things coming around with some files, some video files, and some audio files from Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And I do think I probably will hit that whole story, including that new stuff, in a later episode.
Hmm.
All right. Anything you want to say before I officially begin?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
You got
great.
the floor.
So, true crime is my favorite type of media, at least just for relaxation. I know it sounds strange. Um, I got into true crime when I was very, very young, way too young, like reading Anne Rule books when I was like 12 or 13. Don't let your kids read Anne Rule books when they're that young.
I don't even know what that is. So, cool.
She's the one who did biographies, the most famous biography of Ted Bundy. Oh, okay. Anyway.
I mean, I know who Ted Bundy is. I don't know who
Well,
that
yeah.
person
Well,
is.
you'll find out because I will probably have to do
I
a
think
full
I
deep
know. I
dive
don't
on
know.
her.
Honestly, like all the serial killers just kind of blend into one ball of like I don't know.
He
I don't know
knows
which one.
not what he
I
says.
don't know. Like I know Ted Bundy is a serial killer. I just don't know which one or what he did or any of that. I just know he's
You're
one of those ones that everyone talks about.
you're going to learn a lot then from my side of the series, whether you want
I mean,
to
maybe.
or
Who knows? Maybe.
not.
We'll see.
So I've been a true crime fan for a very long time, and it's not really, as many of you who are already into true crime know, it didn't really kind of go crazy popularity wise until I would say really the 90s. And that is when, all the shows kind of went nuts on regular. For those of you that don't remember, there used to be free TV on the free TV channels, CBS, ABC, NBC.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they started coming out with true crime kind of channels on the heels of true medical shows that they offered. Um, so I really loved those. And in the 90s, then we started doing more cable channels. The number and the kind of types of cable channels exploded.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you started to see multiple true crime specific um, cable channels
Like
come out.
ID channel, ID network, or whatever, and all
ID
that.
Network, True Crime Network,
Mm-hmm.
Lifetime even created, or was it Lifetime? I believe Lifetime created a sub channel for crime. Oprah created a sub channel for crime, or O is the name of the channel. Just lots and lots out there.
I just think it's wild that Lifetime is alternately known for having a true crime division of their like network programming,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have just like cheesy, like goofy, like Hallmark movie. Oh, that's Hallmark, isn't it?
No, Lifetime has a
Dang
lot of
it!
no. Lifetime has a lot of
Ah,
Hallmark like content. Very
right,
similar
but they
movies
don't
and stuff.
have the TM, the Hallmark
No, they don't.
TM Christmas movies
Which I
TM
mean, I think
TM
there's a
TM
reason. Can you
TM.
imagine Hallmark would be like, yeah, no, we don't want to be on the same channel as like
Okay, because
grisly
I
true
just thought
crime.
I'm like that's a wild pivot, Lifetime.
Uh
What do you?
huh.
That's a wild
Seriously,
pivot. What do you
that
like?
would be
Because
nuts.
I do know Lifetime had like for a long time it was known for just like
A lot of rom com type of
well no, but
things
it
and
had a lot
family
of
things and stuff.
like abuse stuff, which was weird.
Well, that was the beginning of their true crime stuff. So they did a lot of relationship, domestic type true crime.
Right.
That's how they kind of did based on a true story.
Hmm.
Then they went into more like documentary on a true story
It's one of
kind
those
of
things like when
shows.
you first think about it, you're like, I don't know how watching a woman getting abused empowers women, but then I guess like telling that story is kind of a way of
It
empowering. So
absolutely,
it's like
absolutely
at
is.
first you're just, it feels like a weird like
At first, it's
juxtaposition.
awful,
Yeah,
right?
because you're
You
like, this
know?
doesn't feel great,
But
but
there were so many signs. Like, I can go all the way back to where, I feel kind of the absolute beginning of all this
hmm,
started, which was the burning bed. I'm sorry, I can't remember the year. um
why does that sound familiar?
Farrah Fawcett was in it.
I've
One
never
of
I've
the
never
original
seen it.
Charlie's Angels. It is
I know
very
who Farrah
well
Fawcett
known.
is,
It is very well
which
known.
is
You
also
may have
weird.
learned about it in high school.
Well, it's also just weird because like I was born in '85. Like, how do I know who Farrah Fawcett is? I shouldn't, but like I think literally like it's weird that like things like that get so like stuck in like the cultural lexicon.
Absolutely.
Like like how do I
Yes.
know about Farrah Fawcett 10 years after she was famous?
And I
Like
think the other thing that's
it's weird.
interesting about her is, she became most famous for Charlie's Angels, and it was many, many years after that, after she finished that,
Hmm,
that she did The Burning Bed, and it was shocking for all of us who had seen her on Charlie's
hmm,
Angels, in this part, because it was
right.
so completely, it was absolutely the opposite end of the spectrum. Um, and that really kind of was the very, very beginning, and that was a based on a true story kind of movie of the week thing, on, I think, is NBC. I'm not sure.
Yes,
Um,
probably.
so that was the beginning of kind of showing partner abuse and showing the things that lead up to them, and showing the heavy warning signals, uh even up to the fact that, one of the most dangerous times is when you finally have gotten to the point where you decided to leave.
Yep.
So we, as a whole culture, we didn't know any of that stuff
Hmm.
before then, and then we've learned more and more. Is that my favorite kind of true crime? Not really. Just, I've watched a lot, I've learned a lot, but it is very. You get to a point where it's very hard to watch
Hmm.
certain things, just whatever your
Hmm.
particular thing that gets you. Um, so a lot of, Lifetime did a lot of that. Oh, Oprah Winfrey's channel did a lot of that. Um, then we kind of come over to ID channel, and ID channel gets a little bit more kind of gory. Robberies gone bad, murder for hire, jealous, jealous adultery partners murdering people,
Hmm.
and then there are a lot of channels that kind of did a lot more of the kind of the serial killer stuff,
Hmm.
which truly is a very different and distinct kind of murder.
Right.
um, Not just in, the numbers, but who how the victims tend to be picked, and
Hmm.
things like that. So that all went really incredibly hugely popular during the 90s, early 2000s. Um, and then, fairly recently, I don't even know how long streaming has really been the primary way that people watch TV.
I think it started in like 2009, 2010, and
That's what
then
I was
kind
gonna.
of became a little more wide because I remember I started watching Netflix I think in like 2000, like
That sounds about
mid to
right.
late 2010, something like that. But like it had existed before then.
Yeah, but
They
it
were, yeah.
wasn't. Yes, sorry.
I mean, but it was widely. But yeah, I think that's about right.
And so that's when things kind of started changing, in the sense that there really wasn't as much call for, or people accessing paid TV channels, paid cable channels
Right.
anymore. Um, and so what began to happen there is they were taking their existing content, making it available for streaming, but a
Hmm.
lot of them were no longer creating new content.
Yeah.
And so that kind of left us with a bit of a hole. But shortly after that, with the advent of YouTube,
Hmm.
um, we very quickly, in the popularity of YouTube, gained people who had true crime specific channels.
Right.
And what's really neat about it is there are several different types,
Hmm.
and then there's a lot of variation within the different types. So I
Hmm.
actually really do prefer YouTube true crime content overall.
Well, I mean, that makes sense because I've noticed in general, I mean, I don't really watch streaming content except YouTube anymore because honestly, like we're
Mm-hmm.
at a point now where like if you watch documentaries, legitimately it's just better to watch YouTube documentaries
Mm-hmm.
because they tend to be they're more like it's more like guerrilla journalism. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
like actually doing their own research. They're actually like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're like usually funding themselves. I mean, usually they have
Yeah.
some sort of support, but yeah, they generally are doing their own research and like
Yep.
it's not some big like
There's no one really making them include things
right.
that they don't think are relevant
Hmm.
or not include things for anybody's particular
Hmm.
situation. And that's what's different.
Hmm.
And with the advent of regular people having access to learning how to create shows like that and how to do good
Right.
research and how to create good content,
Hmm.
it really has opened everything up. So there's so many
Hmm.
different views.
Yep.
Um, do I like all YouTube true crime content? No, just like the other channels. There's certain content I'm just not that into.
Well, and I think
Um,
another interesting thing with YouTube is anybody who wants to create content in that field can do it. Meaning you get wildly different points of view.
yep,
Because I know when you watch TV, it's like there
it's
isn't much
narrowed down.
there's not much variance. Like it just feels kind of like you're getting
Yeah.
one perspective on it, which is usually like like it's usually just a very specific perspective of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with this, I mean, it can run the gamut. It could be, I mean, you could have people who have directly dealt with this stuff. You can
Mm-hmm.
have people who have known others who have. You can
Yeah.
have people who have been researching this for years.
Mm-hmm.
You can have people who just started doing it and are like learning along with the audience. There's a lot of different things you can do with
And what's really interesting to me is, in addition to all of those different approaches, which I could probably name a show for each one. You also have things like people who have experienced a certain type of crime,
it. Hmm.
and they are able to give a perspective that's
Hmm.
very unique. And then you've got people who one of the great video podcasts that I'm really starting to enjoy, and now I'm going to forget your name. I'm sorry, but it has Paul Holes. Paul Holes is really famous because he's an investigator who helped, please let me get this right, catch the Green River Killer, I believe. Um, but we'll do more on that later. But anyways, so there's some that professional investigators have are involved in
Right.
creating,
Hmm.
and so yeah, there's just so many different perspectives. There's so much more freedom in
Yeah.
how they want to present what they're presenting,
Yeah.
um, that it makes for really really interesting content, really
Hmm.
good content. And even if it's not great production value wise, the
Hmm.
content itself is often
it,
so
it's
good.
it's like reading a freelance blog versus like reading a syndicated like article in like a news piece.
Exactly.
It's like sure that article is great, but it's like you're not really going to get the actual genuine real story unless you're reading it like from
Yes.
somebody who isn't getting paid
Yes.
really, who isn't guaranteed to get paid to do that. And it's like
Yes.
you know
They
there
aren't taking directions on what to include and how
right,
to
yeah,
include it from
yeah,
whoever's paying
there's no
them.
meddling,
Yes.
yeah,
And I
it's
think,
painless.
I think the other thing that we've learned as YouTube consumers, I hope most everybody's learned it, I'm sure, um, is we've also gone back to learning that you need to look at more than one perspective, more than
Hmm.
one presenter, so
Hmm.
that you can get a wider look. So either you need
Hmm.
to watch a YouTube video and then go dig and read some other news sources, or go watch some other news sources so that you can, um, when you choose on an issue, go in and dig in and learn more about it so you have a better picture, fuller picture.
Hmm.
So now that we're kind of in the YouTube is kind of the main place,
So in
for
2010s.
video content, since about mid 2010s.
Oh wow.
um I me as my kids like to
You.
occasionally refer to me as a boomer, even though I'm not a boomer.
I don't
um
think I've ever done that.
Yes, you have. Are you kidding?
Nah, no. You're pretty definitively Gen X. Like
Watch Kevin.
you're the most Gen X human being on the planet.
Thank
Like
you. I'm proud of that. We're kind of feral.
that won't be a compliment for too long. Just read the comments. I guarantee you that won't be. You won't be happy about that for very
Kevin,
long.
for all of the other generations, you are correct. But for my generation, we're all going to take it as a compliment because we're weird that way in many ways.
Oh, no.
So we get to that point, and even I am on YouTube. I'm watching YouTube and enjoying all the content. But I also really discovered and got into audio only podcasts around 2020, 2019, 2020. And that's when I discovered, and to this day, it's still my all time favorite. I discovered, did you ever have one of those days where you're filming a video and you totally forget the name of the all time favorite podcast that you're focusing on for your video?
It's just one of those days.
It's
where you don't want to wake up.
You could,
I'm not. I'm
not like that though.
It's
different true crime.
Very Limp Bizkit-esque.
It so is. I love that. Good reference.
Yeah, I almost did it, but then I was like, I don't want you to have to censor stuff.
Yeah,
YouTube's very. I think
you can't do any copyrighted music.
I think
yes, they
well,
are.
Not even that. It's not even copyrighted because I mean, it's not going to be. They're not going to be like, oh man,
that guy said my lyrics.
This dude's trying to sing just as good as Fred Durst.
No, but if you sing their actual lyrics, you're breaking copyright.
No, it's under it.
Does it have to actually be their performance?
No, it has to sound similar enough.
Oh.
What they'll do is they'll judge how similar you sound. Oh. Like if it's a talent show and someone is very poorly performing Limp Bizkit.
Okay, that's a good point. Although I love the idea of like a sixth grader performing Limp Bizkit in the talent
show. I mean, are you kidding me? In my age range, in sixth grade, I would have performed Limp Bizkit.
All right, sorry, we digressed.
Absolutely
digressed. Anyways, the name of the podcast is My Favorite Murder.
There you go.
And the hosts are Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark.
Cool.
Those are not easy names to say quickly.
They also sounds like, you know, two people working for the police chief, you know.
It does.
Like a buddy cop movie.
Kind of sounds like two investigators, doesn't it? Better than Rizzoli and Isles, even though I like the names Rizzoli and Isles.
You're a loose cannon, Hardstark. I'm gonna need your badge and gun. That's what it sounds like to me.
It does.
It has that vibe of like,
I should tell them that. I'm sure somebody has.
I wish my last name was Kowalski. That'd be so cool.
Random though, since ours isn't.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a good
one
to pick.
I'm also not Polish. I'm pretty sure that's a Polish last name.
It is. It's a great. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that just wouldn't happen.
But it is a great name. Be a really good cop name.
Yeah,
anyway, awesome. Their podcast has been around since 2016. I've been watching it since about 2020.
So the podcast is about as old as Pokemon Go, basically. Pokemon Go.
I'm going to take your word for that.
It depends on what time of that year it came out. If it came out in summer, then it's basically as old as Pokemon Go was.
I will have to check that later. There'll be a funny thing to add in the comments later. And the interesting thing is they really, I think, got into gear and really became very popular, like a lot of other podcasts during the pandemic.
You don't have to whisper that. That's weird.
I know, and that's strange. Sorry.
The 2020 pandemic.
But anyway, the way that they approach it, I think, is really what sets them apart. And I think it keeps them from being a very in bad taste kind of podcast, is that they approach it with a lot of empathy. They approach it with a lot of, don't let this happen to you.
I think irreverent would be the word I would use.
They are irreverent.
Like a light irreverence. Like
not toward victims.
No,
and
but
anything,
just
but
the general subject matter is very, like, it's not, yeah.
And they don't hold back when it comes to, you know, if they're going to be snarky, they're going to be snarky about the perpetrators.
Which honestly, I'd much rather have someone be snarky than like glorify like the actual acts, which is what a lot of true crime does. Which I think is a lot of the reason I don't like it. But like having seen them, like, having,
It's a very different approach, isn't it?
yeah, it's much more humanizing, and it's less
Mhm.
about the non-human element,
Yes.
what the serial killer's done, because I
Yes.
feel like that's just not that important. I
No.
honestly feel like,
No. I mean, I
that's
think
not the
that if
story
you
I want to hear.
present it in the way it should be presented, in a very
Yeah,
factual way, almost like an intentionally dry
yeah,
way, you really, I agree, the word is very good. You don't want to
yeah.
glorify the violence of it.
Hmm.
You want to glorify the survival. You want to glorify, if the person didn't survive, you want to glorify the people who worked really hard to find the perpetrator, and the
Yeah.
families who are really working hard and struggling to be
Well, and I think
survivors.
another thing they focus on that usually doesn't get focused on very much is like the investigate, like the detective
I
aspect.
love That's the
That's my
main
favorite
thing.
part. Like
Yes.
I I mean, it might be all the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney I've played, but man, I love just
No,
investigating
I
some
think
stuff
that's
and
what
solving
most
some
people who are
crimes.
into true crime, I think that's what
Yeah,
most of us are into, is that whole real investigations, how they actually go and how they can work.
yeah,
Um, or how they can be successful.
yes,
So I love those guys for that. Plus, they're funny as crap, and pretty sure I can say crap on YouTube.
yeah. You
Um,
look good.
so again, I think it really is how they present the investigative side of it, how they treat the victims and their families. I think that, and the cry, I shouldn't say the cries, but they very frequently include talks about how things can be better, how things can be safer.
Hmm.
And I really like that a lot too. And this term is way overused, but they are very woman empowering, especially in talking about how to keep yourself safe, how to make good choices, but also not how you don't have to hide away, that you have a right
Hmm.
to be out there in the world and be safe. And I think
Yeah.
that's huge. Um,
Yep.
so love those guys. Highly recommend. They also now have a video option for their podcast too. So you can listen to them audio only,
Oh,
or you can watch them on the YouTubes.
don't say
Um,
it. Don't say on the
okay, I
YouTubes,
won't say
please.
that.
Please
Can I
don't
say
do that.
YouTubies?
No, you can
Oh,
say
okay.
YouTube.
On YouTube.
There you go. Awesome.
Um,
That's great.
thanks.
I love
Thanks.
that. I love that. That's
Thanks. I'm glad I
awesome.
can make you happy for that moment, that brief
No,
moment.
yeah, my favorite part is when you just said YouTube. The name of
The
the hosting
entire whole
platform for the videos.
presentation, that was your favorite
No,
part.
I
Great.
love it.
Thanks. But
Oh,
anyways, so a lot of my future stuff will be true crime related, but it won't be only true crime related. And I thought this would be a really good introduction to that. Kevin, do you
hmm.
have any questions?
Well, no, I mean, I feel like I interrupted you enough during yours. I feel like
No, I'm glad you did.
I'm definitely like,
It felt good. It felt
feel like I definitely
conversational. It was
did.
good. I didn't feel like it was interrupting. So,
It definitely was. It was intentional, and I wanted to interrupt you.
okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
Take it
Not
away,
not
Kevin.
particularly. I don't think I have any
Hmm.
actual questions. All I can think of.
Okay, so what are you going to talk about today then?
Um, I'm going to be talking about. I'm taking a different kind of approach. I'm basically sort of doing. I'm going to be explaining a video game series. It's
Okay.
pretty familiar to most people. I think most people who don't even play video games probably know what this is.
I think you're probably right.
It's Resident Evil. It's in For those who don't know, Resident Evil is a series of survival horror slash action horror. There's a lot of different genres. They've kind of flipped genres
Yeah.
around over time. Series that began in 1996. It was created by Capcom. Um, yeah, the Street Fighter guys made a survival horror
Street
game.
Fighter. I
Yeah,
remember Street
it's the
Fighter.
same company
I
actually that
remember
made
trying to
Resident
keep
Evil.
you and your brother off Street Fighter till you were old enough.
That was Mortal Kombat.
Oh
Street
no,
Fighter
you're
was
right.
fine
Okay,
because
be
Street
fair,
Fighter
you're
was
right.
just fine. It was kind of cartoony.
Now I remember.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it was made by Capcom, 1996, I believe. I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong on that. I believe it was released in
You could say trivia
1996
question as if you meant to
because
have
I'm
them
pretty
tell
sure
you.
a year later Resident Evil 2 came out in 97, like late 97.
Okay.
Or no, it was about to come out. It came out in 98. But it was directed, basically essentially created by Shinji Mikami. Although there were a lot of other people who were involved in it.
Okay,
Mikami was the
I'm sorry,
creator.
I have to interrupt. That sounds like somebody special. Who's Shinju Akami?
Shinji Mikami.
Sorry,
He's the director of the Resident Evil franchise. He's done a few other things that I can't. I'll be honest, I didn't actually look into that, but
Okay,
he's done a lot of stuff at Capcom.
okay, okay.
He's like, I would consider him like one of the big three like
Creators. Yeah, okay, got it.
directors slash producers.
Okay.
Um, I mean, just for Resident Evil alone, I mean, the fact that the series is still going on, the ninth game is releasing in a couple months, which is awesome. I'm very excited
Well,
for
think
it.
about it. Your brother was created in 1995, and it's
Yeah,
amazing he's lasted that long.
yeah, the series is a year younger than my youngest
Yeah,
brother, which is kind of wild to think
I didn't even think about
about.
it until just today.
Yeah,
That's a
it's
trip.
I'd rather not think about it because time is a
It's
vicious
zooming.
thing
Now you
to
know what
think
I
about.
mean.
It's
15 years
horrifying.
ago, you probably thought I was
It's
crazy.
genuinely awful and terrifying, and I hate every minute of it.
Okay, I wouldn't go
Thanks.
that far, but it's
I
not fun
would.
that it's going so fast.
I would. Um, so basically, the story goes, I'm not sure 100% how true this is. I mean, it's listed on the Wikipedia, which again, your mileage may vary as far as
True.
accuracy goes on that. It states that they put Shinji Mikami on the team because he does not like horror like media, like he gets scared really easily. So I think their logic was, let's put this guy here because he's gonna have a good idea of what's scary.
True. And
Like,
probably a whole
yeah,
different
if you're
kind
like,
of view on the
yeah,
whole
if you're
thing.
like, if
Yeah.
nothing really scares you, you're not going to really know what's scary. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to have a good sense for that. But like, if you're scared very easily by stuff, you can probably do something with that. And apparently, I guess zombies are like one of the things that he's really afraid of because that's kind of the premise of Resident Evil as a series. I mean, that'll change very quickly. In future installments, you will see very quickly, oh, it ain't just zombies. You think it's zombie, it ain't just zombies. And it's going to get wild very quickly.
I like it.
And
That should have been their tagline.
and I am
Resident Evil.
and I am
It ain't just zombies.
I mean, that would probably be good. I think, I don't know, each game, a couple of the games have like little subtitles like that.
That's cool.
But yeah, I mean, I am simultaneously like excited and absolutely like mortified that I'm going to be kind of tackling the entire series.
I'm impressed.
So I think the best way to do it is to start with Resident Evil 1. The good news about Resident Evil 1 is it's actually the most concise, easy to explain game in the series. The bad news is it's the most concise and easy to explain in the series, which means it's only going to get more complicated from here. But I guess the best way to start with this,
To dive right in?
yeah, I guess to kind of start with the actual story, kind of the lead up to the story, because there's some like background stuff happening before the game starts. So the game takes place in July 24th, 1998. But before that, um, the game takes place in Raccoon City, which is a wild name for a city, kind of crazy. Probably not even the weirdest city. I think there's a city called Badger City somewhere. So I mean, honestly,
An actual real city?
I think so. I think it's
I'm
in
not
like
surprised.
Arizona or Nevada or somewhere like that.
That's not surprising.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it's not the most wild name. There are names that are weirder. I mean, there's like Hell, Michigan. Like, I mean, if you could have Hell, Michigan, I mean,
That's true.
Raccoon City can exist somewhere.
There's a lot of weird ones in Nevada.
Yeah,
Especially the further out
Nevada's
in
a
the desert you
weird
go.
state.
Yeah.
It definitely is. But yeah, so there's no definitive geographical location. They always say it's in America's Midwest. I personally think it's in like Michigan because there's like a lot of forests. There's like a whole big forest area, and there's also bodies of water nearby.
Oh, then
So I would
yeah.
assume
Okay.
it's got to be somewhere near the Great Lakes. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be though. It
But
could
that
be in like
does-
Colorado. Some people theorize Colorado because it also has like the Colorado River. It also has like forests and stuff. But I don't know. I personally think it's in Michigan, but I'm sure someone will argue with me. Some people have said Illinois. Like
Colorado's not the Midwest, so
it kind of is.
we can argue about this. Coloradoans? But
I
I
mean,
think Michigan or Illinois are probably really good guesses as far as like you were saying.
well, because both of them are near the Great Lakes, so I
Yes,
mean,
and they have a lot of really nicely forested
well, a lot
areas.
of people like Chicago, like Illinois, is the predominant one that most people think it is. I personally think it's Michigan, just because I don't know. That's
Got
just
to
the
be
vibe I
different.
get. No, it's just like I don't know. It kind of feels like Michigan.
Okay.
There's a lot of coniferous trees and stuff, which makes
Mm,
me feel like it might be Michigan. I don't know.
could be.
But anyway, so the city of Raccoon City it started out more like a town. It was a very small city. And then there was a corporation called the Umbrella Corporation, which is a pharmaceutical company. Um,
I'm sorry. That name, even though I've heard it a few times, it just, I don't know why, it makes me giggle. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, it's the idea. It's like the most and least intimidating name for a company. Like you hear Umbrella Corporation, you're like, oh, they're up to no good. But also, it's kind of funny to say the words Umbrella
It
Corporation.
is.
But at the same time, you're like, yeah, I mean, they're definitely up to some
Yeah.
shady stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So they're like a pharmaceutical company. Um, pharmaceutical company. You'll find out why that's funny in a bit. Not funny, but like ironic.
Mm-hmm.
They basically give Raccoon City and its mayor and its constituents and all that a ton of money, and like initiate massive like projects to expand the city. So
Okay.
it basically goes, I think it like doubles in size. I think it gets to like 120, 130,000. Like it's a big city. Like
So,
not huge, but like definitely big enough to be like, it's no Chicago, but it is definitely like
it's no Chicago. I'll stop doing that. Okay, probably I won't. Are they doing it like for to build up the city for employees of theirs to live in,
ostensibly it's to kind of
like just
it,
for
it's
building
just
up the area
yeah,
to be good stewards, you
yeah,
know?
it's like good publicity. I think it's a
Okay.
mix of good publicity and also a way to kind of establish sort of
Be
how
part of the town.
like kind of like what Amazon was doing with like Seattle, like trying to kind of like
Become part of it,
do
like
public
home.
works and like
Yeah.
kind of become like the
Okay.
mascot of that.
Okay.
However, the real answer is they're basically creating a ton of underground laboratories and hidden facilities in the city. So they're basically using the city as like a giant shell
Oh,
corporation.
it's like a cover.
Yeah,
Holy crud.
yeah,
That's really creepy and good for this particular type of story.
yeah. I mean, I mean, it's nefarious, but like
Believable.
it's nefarious, but like they're not really doing anything bad with it. It's just kind of like they're using the city just to kind of like hide what they're
Okay,
doing,
so they're not like
which is a bit
releasing
shady. But like,
toxic
yeah,
waste in
but I
the
mean, obviously,
groundwater or anything like that.
the city's like visibly thriving. You can
Okay.
tell. So I mean, like, it's a little shady. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird and
Yeah.
like maybe not super ethical, but like they're not like doing
Overtly
anything. Yeah,
harmful.
they're not
Yeah.
like
Okay.
destroying. They're not using the city as like a testing ground or anything.
Okay.
Like
Okay, so we got it. Umbrella Corporation built up Raccoon City,
Mhm.
underground labs beneath the city.
Right.
Gotcha.
And so basically the story begins with there being a number of like grisly, like cannibalistic murders. Like people like they can see like bite marks on the
In the
corpses
town?
and stuff. No, in the forest.
Oh,
The forest is like
gross.
it's like right outside the town. It kind of
Yeah.
like surrounds it, I think, in like a semicircle or
Yeah.
something
Makes
like
sense. Like a lot of towns.
that. And so like basically there's like at first there's only like one or two, but then eventually it gets so bad that they basically cordon off the forest and don't allow people to go through except like law enforcement or
Oh.
yeah. So they go ahead and send in the Bravo team from a division of the Raccoon Police Department,
Sorry.
um, called
Those guys sound tough.
the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, or STARS. They're
Well, can I interrupt one more time?
Mhm.
So that means the raccoon stars?
Well, they're like a separate division. They're not really officially part of the police.
Oh,
I
okay.
get I
So
get what
they're
you're
just
doing. I
stars.
get what you're going
It's
for.
adorable.
It's really funny.
It
But
is.
yeah, unfortunately, they are like a separate entity. And the
Because
game
then they
kind
could
of
have been
makes
like direct stars.
oh
Anyway,
my
sorry.
god.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. I mean it this time. I'm
You're
gonna let him
good.
talk.
You're good. The names are pretty goofy.
I love
Not
them.
I'm not going to lie.
No, they're goofy
Um
in a good way.
so they're basically they send in the Bravo team and they lose contact with them, I think 12 hours after they're brought in. Um,
Ooh,
they're not 100% sure what happened, but they're not there anymore.
ooh.
Or they're not in contact with them anymore. So they decided at this point, like, they got to send in, like, the Alpha team because they got to get this resolved. Because basically, at this point, I mean, there's been a number of these, like, murders and like,
Yeah. And you lost a whole team.
the city's getting kind of like uneasy about it. So like they go ahead and send in the Stars Alpha team to investigate. Their helicopter lands in the middle of a clearing in the forest, and they're kind of like looking around, kind of like investigating, trying to figure out what happened. And then they come across these like dogs. They're like Dobermans, but like not right. Like they are definitely like not.
Not right.
They're just not like normal dogs.
Ooh.
They think they are initially, and as they approach, they turn around and part of their face is like torn off and stuff.
Wait, are they zombie
They're
dogs?
zombie dogs.
Oh, gross. Oh,
In like
man.
in like supplementary material, they're called Cerberus or
Well, that makes
Cerberi
sense.
for
That makes
multiple.
sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
Dog monster,
but I don't
mythology.
know if they ever call them that in the game. I don't think they actually do, but it is like in
Part of the
any other
lore.
exterior material.
Got
Yeah,
it.
in lore material they
Okay.
call them that. So the Cerberite attack and like chase them, and they're like running from them because like basically, oh, one of the members of Alpha Team does get eaten by the dogs
When
because
they
he like
first.
because
Okay.
yeah because he can't outrun them. He gets taken out, and that gives them time to run. And so they're running and they're running, and then like they run through the forest for a bit, and then they find another clearing, which has a giant like kind of mansion in it, like in the
In the
area.
middle of the forest.
Yes. Um,
That's got to be totally legit and safe.
so they get into the Spencer Mansion, and they which is what it's called.
Okay.
Um, you don't really know that, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's
Yeah,
just
we know.
called the Spencer
And
Mansion.
for you to describe it, it
Yeah,
helps to, yeah.
yeah. So everybody gets in there. They close the doors shut, and obviously they can't open the doors because the dogs are out there and they'll get killed.
Girl.
So they're just like, well, in the meantime, we should probably look around and see if we can find somebody to help us or get some communication out to,
Something.
we
Some
need to
kind of
figure out something because
resources.
they don't have like any radios, and the helicopter pilot took off after they landed. So
Oh.
the helicopter pilot doesn't know what's
So
going
he
on.
doesn't even know about the dogs or anything.
No, he has no idea what's
Oh,
going on. So he's just
wow.
sitting there like waiting for a response, but they don't have
Yeah.
any radios.
Okay.
I think they drop one of them, or like maybe the person who gets killed, I think, is their communications person who's like talking.
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
though. I think they would all have radios, but there's something that goes on. Long story
Yeah.
short, they can't
Got
get
it.
through to them. So they decide they're going to kind of investigate and split up into two teams and kind of figure out what's going on. At this point, you take control of one of two characters. You
Okay.
choose the character before you start the game.
Oh, okay.
The two characters are Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield. They're two characters that will become very like prominent in the series going forward. This is like the first appearance of them.
Okay.
Basically, they're kind of the two different difficulty modes in the game.
Oh, okay.
Jill has more inventory slots. She starts off with a lockpick, which allows her to unlock things and get extra stuff, get extra loot,
Oh, okay.
or like ammo or healing items or
Necessary
whatever. Yeah.
necessary items.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her path, she ends up with like the more powerful like companion character,
Okay.
who's Barry Burton. That's her partner. He's like the combat specialist or the like weaponry specialist. So
I'm
like
sorry, I'm doing it again, but Kevin, Barry Burton,
it's
is
pretty
that
good.
not the
It's pretty
most
good.
like game show, 70s game show host
I feel like it's
name?
more like 80s action movie.
Oh,
Barry Burton,
you mean kind of oh yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's
Spencer for
I
Hire, but Barry Burton.
like
Yeah, I see that. I see that.
Mikami did kind of state he's kind of stated in a few interviews that
Got it.
like a lot of his inspiration was like late 80s early 90s like
Oh
action
my gosh,
movies,
like
like that was his whole thing, like
I got it. So like the
um
whole, I mean, the TV equivalent would be like Spencer for Hire, Magnum PI, kind of. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Kind of going for that kind of like,
Okay, I got you.
that kind of actiony kind of
Okay,
vibe,
the name does match that too.
which is
Okay,
ironic because the gameplay isn't very action oriented,
but
but like, you know,
it's a great name though.
they took a lot of inspiration from it.
Yeah.
And basically he's just like he helps out a lot more than
Okay.
Chris's partner does, and
Okay.
does a lot more. You also have him with you at the beginning, whereas
Oh.
Chris meets his partner character about halfway through the game or about a third of the way
Okay.
through.
So is
Um,
Chris's character more powerful because he has to wait till later, or
his
Is Chris just the easier level?
he's more resilient
Okay.
because he's like a combat specialist, whereas
Okay.
she's
Okay.
I believe she's like recon, so like she's a reconnaissance person, so she's
Okay.
meant to kind of scout and stuff.
Well, that
um
kind of makes sense though when you think like, okay, you know, not being a really heavy video game player. Okay, it's just like that much. I think about it and like, okay, you want to go in there and you want to go real like action fighty, intense. You would want to be Chris, if I'm guessing
right.
right, and then you want to be what's her name again?
Jill.
Lily, Jill.
Jill.
You'd want to be Jill if you want to kind of get in there and figure out the game and figure out the advantages and
Right.
disadvantages, but
Yeah.
try and stay alive a while
Right.
while doing
Jill
it.
is much that's why Jill's considered the easier playthrough, is because you have more forgiveness to learn the mechanics and learn how to
Cool.
play. I think most people usually choose Jill as their first time because it's like it gives you a lot more leeway.
Yeah, I can see where you probably stay alive longer.
Chris can take more hits, and I think he runs a little bit faster
Mm-hmm.
when he's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Um so he's like a little more durable. But I think other than that, he's a lot more difficult to play as. He gets slightly less powerful weapons, and
Got it.
he also his companion character is Rebecca Chambers. She's basically like a medic for Bravo team,
Okay.
which I was going to reveal later, but it's fine.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
She also has a name that sounds sort of like a 70s porn star.
Okay, well,
Just saying.
I mean,
Allegedly.
I mean, so like her whole thing is she's like the medic, so like she can like heal you, I guess. I
Yeah.
think like she can heal you every
Yeah.
now and then, but otherwise she doesn't actually engage in combat with you. So like so there are certain situations where like Jill would have help potentially, but like Chris is kind of on his own.
Okay.
Um there's also like other things, the other differences, but I mean in general like Chris is just more difficult to play as.
Okay.
But it's usually viewed as more rewarding because it's like, you know, if you can get through the game as Chris, it's kind of like playing it on a harder difficulty. So
Got it.
yep. So basically both of them kind of take separate paths through the game. um let's see. So basically, they kind of go through and they start to discover that there are zombies in the mansion, which shouldn't be too shocking. They just got attacked by like zombie dogs,
Dog zombies.
but it's still surprising that they're in the mansion. They're just like, so they start to figure out like maybe this is where they're coming from.
Okay.
So they kind of explore through. They find a bunch of like weird creatures just in general. So there's another one. I don't know.
Like underground lab, genetically altered weird creature zombie things.
Kind of,
Cool.
more or less. There's like this thing called the Neptune, which is like a mutated shark. Basically, it's a
Like
like
sharks needed more
yeah,
scariness.
it's wild. And it's in this like little like aqua ring area where it can like swim around in, and it like gets out because like the enclosure breaks and the area floods, and it's like swimming around and it can attack you and stuff.
Wait, there's enough water in this aqua thing where he can like once it breaks, he can like swim down the halls and stuff.
Well, he could only swim in the room that you're in.
That one
Like,
room. Okay, got
yeah,
it. Sorry. Okay,
it's kind of like a mini aquarium thing, but
got it.
then like when the
Okay.
so there's that, and then there's just like there's more of the dogs. There's also these things. I think they're called chimeras or something. They're basically like fly human hybrids, essentially,
Oh,
or
gross.
spider human hybrids. One of those two. Um,
Bugs.
they can like crawl on the walls and stuff, and they can like jump down and attack you and stuff. You encounter those like kind of later in the game. There's also like midway through the game, you encounter them first as Chris, and then later Jill encounters them.
Okay.
They're called hunters. They're basically these like giant humanoid reptilian like monsters.
Jeebs.
Like imagine like a velociraptor if it
Yeah.
could walk on two legs and just like walked like a human and could like swing its
And are
arms
they
and
more
stuff.
human sized or smaller?
They're like about like probably a bit shorter than I am. I think they're like 6 feet tall, give or
Jeez.
take. Yeah, they're
Like
they're
if that existed in real life, they're terrifying.
oh yeah. I mean, they're terrifying in the game.
Yeah.
They're just very they're like the toughest enemy to beat in the game, basically, because if they get your health down low enough, they can just instantly kill you. They can just
Ooh.
decapitate you. So it's like you have to be very careful when fighting them and stuff. So I mean,
Which makes sense. I mean, that
yeah,
makes sense when you look at the character, it makes sense that they would be one of the stronger ones to fight. Yeah.
right. And so basically, they do a lot of exploring. They kind of explore all the areas. They explore like the dormitory area, and like they find like keys and stuff to kind of get through and progress.
Okay.
And then ultimately, they eventually discover that there are underground labs. They basically open up a secret passage in this like fountain, and it leads to the underground laboratories.
Okay.
Um, and they figure out that at least some of the BOWs, the bioorganic weapons, have come from there. There's another location they come from that'll be discussed in a later game.
Ooh, okay.
Um, it'll kind of shed a bit more light on what's been going on, but
Okay.
some of them are coming from this underground laboratory.
Okay.
Mostly zombies. The zombies are kind of coming from there, but there's also a couple other things. I think there's like a couple hunters that show up there. Um,
Okay.
so you go through there, and you can eventually find these items called OS discs. They're kind of like mini discs, but like not that big.
Okay.
And basically, if you find 3 of them, you get sort of the like final like revelation and the big plot twist.
Oh, I got you. I got you. Okay. The
Um,
reveal.
and the big plot twist is ultimately that the commander or captain of the Stars unit,
Hmm.
Albert Wesker, the guy he's the leader of
Who
Alpha
sent
Team.
them in there?
Well, no, he's the leader of Alpha Team. He's actually there with them.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But he is like the leader of the team. They find out that they basically see pictures of him in an Umbrella lab coat, which means he works for Umbrella.
Holy
Or
crap.
now they don't really know what that means. Maybe he was like a former employee, but like at this point, given what they've seen and given like all the weird like Umbrella iconography and stuff,
Hmm.
they're kind of assuming you're left as the player to logically assume
That he's a bad guy
that like
undercover as a
yeah
good guy rather than the other way around.
right yeah
Okay.
pretty much.
Okay. Wow.
Because you could argue maybe he's going undercover to double cross
That's
Umbrella,
yeah.
but
That's why
like
I was.
the assumption
But
is
with the
that
other things
he's
going on, it makes you okay.
so they continue through through the facility.
The underground facility.
Yep. You get the opportunity to free your teammate or your partner
Okay.
who
Cool.
gets captured by Wesker.
Okay.
Um, presumably, I mean, there's no one else who could capture them, and I mean,
Because
after finding out he works on at this point,
everything
you're
else down
logically
there
meant to
kills
assume
you.
that. Yeah.
So yeah, got it.
So ultimately, they reach this like specimen storage area, which is like there's just these giant like test tube things, and like
Uh,
they're all along the walls and stuff, and like
like the
you know,
fembots.
I guess they're kind of well, it's more like I don't know, it's like reanimator style stuff. Like there's
Oh,
just these
okay.
giant
Okay.
vats, and
Got it. A
they're
little
just
more
like bright
grimy and
green, and
weird. And
yeah,
okay, I
yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
So they get into this storage area, um, and basically they run into Wesker, and Wesker essentially reveals the whole thing. Like,
Oh, okay.
he's like, oh yeah, yeah, I work for Umbrella, but not for long, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the data that's here and I'm going to blackmail Umbrella and make them pay me a ton of money so I can start my own like organization and kind of. I think it's
Kind of take
unclear.
over the world?
I think in the remake of Resident Evil 1, he says that he's going to use that as a bargaining chip to get in good with other people who can help him start an
Okay.
organization.
Okay.
In Resident Evil 1, he just says so he can like basically take over the
Okay.
world. It's a little bit more to the point, but I
Hmm.
do feel like the remake is kind of the more canonical version of that, as you
As far
like.
as it keys into subsequent thing, I'm guessing.
Right, yeah. It makes more sense when you look at kind of what happens later on.
Okay.
Um, so he's basically planning to double cross them, um, and as he says that, he activates the control pad, which has one of the creatures in the vat behind him that
Hmm.
basically releases all the fluid and like opens up,
Ew.
and it reveals this like giant, like it's like 8 feet tall or something like that. Just this huge like humanoid looking dude. He basically looks like a human, like a super tall human dude, just bald, whatever.
Oh, okay.
But he has this giant like clawed hand. Basically, it has this like huge claws on it.
Like lobster claws?
No, like Wolverine claws, kind of,
Oh,
but
like
like
claw
huge.
claws. Okay.
Like one of them's a claw, one's a normal
Got
hand.
it.
He gets out, and Wesker basically like tells the tyrant to attack them, but instead it just stabs him, kills him, knocks him to the ground, and then you have to fight the tyrant.
Okay.
The first fight's pretty easy. You're mostly meant to be able to kind of just. It's meant to be pretty easy. It's like, oh, he's kind of sluggish because he just woke up.
Got it.
So you win that fight pretty easily, and then you just kind of escape the facility.
Okay.
Um, in the original Resident Evil, I don't think they show this, but in remake, if you leave and come back, the Wesker's body disappears. In the original game, they don't. In the original
Does
game, he's
that
still there.
portend something,
It it
or
it
like he comes back
it
as
might
like a cyborg or something cool
it
like
might
that?
it might. Who
Do they say
knows?
cyborg anymore? I'm just, okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, Cyborg's a half human, half machine.
Yeah,
An
I just
android
didn't know
android
if
is
that
full
was
machine.
right. And that's okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally
No,
behind
no,
the
no, no,
times.
no.
Okay.
It's still
So
used.
where did they escape to? Like out in the forest?
So they climb some stairs and they get up to the helipad. Um,
Oh,
and they're like they look up, and then sure enough, kind of about a mile away, they see
that
Brad, the
guy.
helicopter pilot, like flying around and flying circles around, kind of waiting.
Cool.
And so they look around and they find a set of flares and they launch them up, and then the helicopter comes towards them. And as the helicopter is coming towards them, the tyrant bursts out of the floor,
No.
leaps onto the heliport, and you have to fight him again. He's a lot tougher.
Ah,
He has like a larger claw, like his claw, like it's like huge. It's basically like
oh,
this
for
giant
Pete's
like
sake.
julienne slicer on his
Like
hand, pretty much.
helicopter
So
smasher
it could be. I
claw.
don't
Oh
know.
god.
You know,
Okay.
I probably could destroy a helicopter. I don't know.
Okay, so
I'm sure there's a bunch of like power scalers on the internet who would just be like,
probably I don't
"Oh
even
man,
know what a power
Tyrant could
scaler
totally
is,
take
but
out a
there you go.
helicopter." It's like, okay, okay,
But
dude.
so what? How do you win?
You basically just kind of like hold him off. I mean, I think you can do enough damage to kill him,
To wear him
but I
down,
think
kill him?
ultimately you have to wait for Brad to drop a rocket launcher out of the helicopter. You
Oh,
pick that up, you point it at him, but you
and
have to
that's how
like
you do it.
fire at him while he's like distracted.
Okay.
If he's just staring at you, he'll just bat the missile away.
Rude.
But if you can catch him while he's like running towards you,
I
he'll
got it.
take the missile to the face and he blows up and then
Oh
he
my
dies.
gosh.
And then basically,
So you
after,
just hop on that helicopter then and you
then
go?
yeah, they're airlifted out right before the
Nice.
mansion self-destructs. I forgot to mention that part. Wesker sets up a self-destruct sequence.
Of course he
Well, it
does.
depends. If you're playing as Jill, he sets it up. If you're playing as Chris, Rebecca tries to like tries to like figure out a way out and
She
accidentally
accidentally.
activates the self-destruct.
Either way,
Again,
the mansion, the structure
once again,
has to
I don't
self-destruct.
know if that's in the remake. I might exclusively be in the remake. I think it might be because
I hope it is because
I
it's
don't think it's in the
classic
original.
action movie good stuff.
But it's like, so yeah, that happens and they get airlifted out and
All is
Chris,
good until
well, I
Resident
mean, it's
Evil
good except for
2.
like they have to eventually report this and report what happened, and most likely nobody's going to believe them. But for now, I mean, they're alive and they didn't get blown up in the
True.
mansion.
And they've got the opportunity to try and convince people
Yeah.
that weird bio bows.
You could just say BOW, or you could say bio. You could just say bioweapon. I think
Bows.
they start using bioweapon later on because
Oh,
they
okay.
realize BOW
Is
or
bow.
Yeah, it's not bow.
Not scary at all.
Well, that's not.
Otherwise, it's bow, which is even less
No,
scary.
I mean that's not how acronyms work. It's not the SIA or the FUBI.
Some of them are, though.
Or the
People love
ATIF.
to turn them into words.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you don't. They're not necessarily that. They are. They can become that, but like,
okay,
they're BOWs. They're called BOWs. You can just call them bioweapons. Bioweapon, honestly, is just easier. I probably should have used. Okay.
Sorry. You just, you had to fight too hard on this one.
But yeah,
Okay,
so
cool.
that is Resident Evil.
I like it. I mean, it's a good story.
It kind of establishes everything. That's why it's kind of a shorter game. It really, like, there isn't much going on. I like, though, that they kind of kept it as simple as possible for the first game.
Yes.
Because a lot of things do the whole, make everything ultra complex and establish a ton of stuff early and then like.
But then trying to do
scale down.
sequels, you really limit yourself, right?
Well, I mean, you also have to scale it down and then it just like feels less impactful.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think that's
It's pretty
really
great.
cool. And there's so many places and directions you can bounce off from all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the series gets pretty unwieldy right around the time of Code Veronica, which I think is like the 6th game.
Okay.
That's around the point it starts getting kind of a bit unwieldy. But overall, I mean, it works pretty well. It expands upon itself. It gets a little too big and out of control by the time you hit like Resident Evil 6.
Okay.
Resident Evil 6 is where like I don't know.
Well, we'll talk later, but I'm interested to see what happens after it gets almost too big for itself.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's still, don't get me wrong, like, it's still just as entertaining, but the summaries will become much longer, and I will probably have to find very creative ways to kind of like condense it without like
or break them into 2 or whatever. Yeah,
I would hope I wouldn't have to do that, because if I have to
it is a synopsis that tells you it's one heck of an involved game.
If I have to do that, then Code Veronica is gonna be like 4 parts, because that thing is insane.
Yeah,
but I might have to split it into 2.
Yeah,
the game itself splits into 2 parts. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that would actually make good sense.
Probably works.
Well, cool.
But yeah,
that's really cool. I didn't expect it to be such a good story apart from a game. I mean, it's a good story.
Oh yeah, I mean it. Well, if you look at it historically, like in terms of gaming, this was around the time that stories were becoming more important.
Because I mean, this was fleshed.
This was less than a year before like Final Fantasy VII came out, and games really started focusing on story. Because before this, most games didn't have one, or if they did, it was very minimalist.
Yeah, exactly.
You had stuff like Sonic the Hedgehog and Mario, and Super Mario World and stuff, where it's like there's not
a lot of connectivity. Again, they don't
just not
flesh out
the
story so that you kind of get the reason why there's this and that and this and that.
But Resident Evil, it wasn't the first, but it was like one of the early examples of like kind of trying to establish a story.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's interesting to see that kind of develop from there. But yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So what are you going to talk about next week? Are you going to move on with number 2 or skip around? Or
I was trying to consider like, should I talk about the remake? But then it's like the remake, it's different, but like the main story beats are near exactly the same.
Oh, got it.
In fact, so much so that most of what I described in here is what happens in the remake. That's the version I used because like it's the more complete version. It has a bunch of stuff going on.
I got you. That does make sense then to kind of move on from
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
cool.
but I decided to do kind of a hybrid of the two, like highlighting the things
I like it.
that were most relevant or most, interesting
Because
and
then you
pertinent to the
didn't have
story.
to redo so much of the similar stuff.
But
That
yeah,
makes
I'm
sense.
probably just gonna next time I should be doing Resident Evil 2. Um,
Cool.
it'll be interesting to see how I'm going to do that one. Because there's two separate scenarios you can play, but it's one cohesive storyline, so I'll probably just merge it all together into one synopsis and do
You
that.
know what? I think that's when you're going to have to start writing and decide if you want to kind of split it into two tracks or just try and fold it all together. Yeah, I see
Yeah,
what you mean.
that's kind of the tough part.
Okay, cool. Well, next time
Mm-hmm.
I am actually going to dig into the overall kind of framework, I guess, for lack of a better word, um, for true crime on YouTube and talk about some favorites and also talk about some that I think are questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there'll be lots of good stuff to pass on, but
Yep.
try and give kind of a good overview of what's out there and what the different focuses are and the different styles are. So that'll be
Right.
me next time.
Cool. Cool.
All right, great.
Sounds
Thank you
good.
all for joining us,
Thank you. Thank you.
and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye.